Black Ops 6 is confirmed. One of the videos I've been sent a lot of is T-Dog Smitty's. We've watched this a couple times. It is the full history of the Black Ops story. These guys are always kind of more covert. There's some problems. They have to go under the radar. And that's what it seems like it's going to continue on with Black Ops 6. This is going to be occurring in 1991. There was a lot of people wondering if it had to do with 2001. This is the setting. And I think that's pretty much it, man. I mean, I guess after Black Ops 2 is when this is actually occurring. Because later, the rest of the Black Ops go kind of into the future. There's like cyber suits and they're wall running and going crazy with all the movement and everything. Although movement is going to be quite interesting in Black Ops 6 with the omnidirectional. That's kind of more the multiplayer movement tech side of things. This is the pure story of the campaign, and I wanted to watch this and see.
The core Black Ops story spans nearly 100 years.
I've played all these.
5 Call of Duty titles and multiple generations of off-the-book soldiers risking everything to win the battles you've never even heard about. This is the complete timeline of the Call of Duty Black Ops series.
Mason. They had such a good intro screen in Black Ops 1.
Let's make this quick.
Before we get into the first actual Black Ops title, we actually have to go back to World at War, Treyarch's last World War II game, where they set up a few key characters and themes that echo through the rest of the story.
Dragovich, Kravchenko, Stein. These men must die.
During the Russian section of the game, you play as Private Dmitry Petrenko, a silent but dependable soldier who first wakes up in a body-filled fountain in Stalingrad after a German attack on his unit. The only other survivor is Sergeant Viktor Reznov, an honorable and deeply patriotic member of the USSR who we'll get to know more later. Despite numerous calls for help, their superior, General Dragovich, refused to send help, leaving Reznov and his men to deal with the German forces on the ground by themselves. Thankfully, the duo escapes Stalingrad and eventually go on to take Berlin from the Axis forces, putting an end to the war in Europe.
As heroes, we will return to Russia's embrace.
But after the war, Reznov and Dmitry weren't done. They continued to be under the command of Dragovich and his right-hand man, Lev Kravchenko, but tensions between Reznov and these men who left him to die in Stalingrad were bubbling under the surface. In 1945, they were ordered to locate and capture Friedrich Steiner, a German scientist behind the secret German project codenamed Nova. However, after capturing the scientist, Dragovich wanted to see Project Nova's capabilities firsthand, so he ordered the toxic Nova 6 gas to be used on his own men. Dmitry is killed in the chamber, but Reznov is spared by British commandos attacking the base. In the chaos, Reznov detonates the frozen ship containing the gas to destroy it, an act that finds him detained by the military for disobeying orders. Now we're going to fast forward a decade or so to 1961, marking the beginning of Black Ops 1.
Yeah. This is the first one I was super into. I did play MW2 as well, though.
What do they mean?
The numbers.
He now plays Alex Mason, a selfless CIA operative who's joined by Sergeant Frank Woods and Chief Joseph Bowman during Operation 40, an off-the-books mission in Cuba tasking the crew with assassinating Fidel Castro in his home. The mission actually turns out to be successful, with the dictator going down. However, their exfil doesn't go according to plan, and Mason is captured. While coming in and out of consciousness, Mason sees that Castro actually survives the attack, and Mason is gifted as a prisoner of war to General Dragovich.
Do with him what you wish, General. This is my gift to you, in honor of our new relationship.
From there, Mason spends about a year in the Russian gulag Vorkuta, where he crosses paths with Reznov, who has been imprisoned since Project Nova.
Shoot.
While there, Mason undergoes various psychological experiments, including the one that relayed numbers in an attempt to brainwash him. In October of 1963, Mason and Reznov escape from the prison, and although most of the prisoners involved would die during the attempt, both of them make it out, but are separated.
Come on! Step 8, Reznov! Freedom! For you, Mason! Not for me!
Upon returning to the US, Mason is given an audience with JFK, who authorizes a mission to assassinate Dragovich. However, during this interaction, Mason is hit with murderous visions of killing his own president before he's able to suppress the urge. This takes us to Operation Flashpoint, where Mason, Woods, and Bowman are sent to a cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to eliminate Dragovich and rescue their fellow brother-in-arms, Gregorio Weaver. During the mission, they destroy the Soviets' rocket, triggering a massive explosion on the base, and Dragovich is assumed KIA, a fact that didn't sit right with Mason. Just 1 week later, on November 22nd, President John F. Kennedy is assassinated in Dallas by Lee Harvey Oswald. And while never explicitly confirmed, Alex Mason can be seen in the crowd as the shooting occurs, leading to some suspicion being thrown Mason's way. 5 years later, in 1968, the Vietnam War is going strong. Alex Mason and his CIA handler Jason Hudson are sent to the U.S. Marine base in Quezon to meet with Sergeant Woods with orders to find a Russian defector in Hugh City who has important intel the CIA needs to get their hands on. During the attack, Mason finds the defector and recognizes him as his old friend, Viktor Reznov. He's given the intel, revealing that Dragovich survived the attack in Kazakhstan, and they've been ramping up production again on Nova 6 gas and the Ascension program, aka the Numbers broadcast. With this information, Hudson and Weaver head to Kowloon, Hong Kong to interrogate a chemical engineer named Dr. Daniel Clark, who defected to the Soviets to help Dragovich develop the Nova 6 gas. However, before he's able to answer their questions, he's killed by a Spetsnaz agent sent to shut him up. Back in Vietnam, Mason, Woods, and Bowman eliminate a Viet Cong outpost, finding more intel revealing Kravchenko's presence in the area and a nearby downed Russian airplane carrying Nova 6 gas. However, after investigating the crash, Vietnamese and Russian soldiers led by Dragovich surround their positions and take them captive, where Bowman is killed.
Bowman! Bowman!
Meanwhile, Hudson and Weaver continue their search for answers to the Nova 6 gas and the Numbers program by heading to a Russian base on Mount Yamatau. After suffering some casualties, they find the intel they were looking for and exfil, blowing the base up behind them. Then, back in Vietnam,
you see that, Hines? We're gonna take it.
Mason and Woods escape Viet Cong and go to Kravchenko's nearby base, where they rescue a group of POWs, including Reznov, who rejoins them for the rest of their fight. But during the escape, Kravchenko corners Mason, and Woods stabs him in the neck as Kravchenko pulls the pin on one of his grenades.
But of course, we now know that Woods is fine.
Both are presumed dead, leaving Mason and Reznov alone in Vietnam. With Kravchenko dead and Dragovich MIA, the pair decide that the German scientist Steiner, who was responsible for the Nova
Rebirth Island right there, boys. Oh, shoot! Little trip to Alcatraz.
40s, must be responsible for its resurgence. Without sharing their findings with the CIA, Mason and Reznov instead stow away on a ship headed to Rebirth Island, a Soviet base used to test chemicals where Steiner is most likely hiding. Hudson and Weaver, however, armed with the intel they found at Yamatau, move to intercept Mason and Reznov and take Steiner alive. Before they're able to get to him, though, Reznov and Mason find him, and Reznov is able to finally get vengeance for his friend Dmitri.
My name is Victor Reznov, and I will have my revenge!
But then, the game rewinds the clock, and now we replay the confrontation through the eyes of Hudson, where Reznov doesn't kill Steiner, but Mason does.
My name is Victor Reznov, and I will have my revenge!
Mason is captured and interrogated by Hudson and Weaver, where the truth finally becomes known. Reznov died in Vorkuta, and every instance of the man after the escape was a figment of Mason's own destroyed psyche.
It was their attempt at end Kyodra. Dragovich programmed you to kill Kennedy, but Reznov sabotaged you. He wanted revenge for all the Dragovich done to him. Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner, 3 new victims.
Hudson believes that the Russians have programmed more sleeper agents like Mason all over the country, and that very soon the Numbers will be broadcast to wake them all up. But with Mason's programming broken, He now holds the key to everything and can remember the broadcast station playing the numbers aboard the ship named the Rusalka.
Where?
Cuba.
Oh, get
Once
the
at the
shades
facility,
on.
they're able to stop the broadcast, and Mason confronts Dragovich one last time, where he strangles him and drowns him to death.
Gets me on. Like I'm making kill my own president.
Mason and Hudson
Tried,
return to
you
the surface
did!
to regroup, celebrating their victory and the end of Project Ascension.
It's over. We won.
Oh, that's a cool shot, dude. Damn. I don't even remember that.
Do not trust Adler. Adler is lying to you. Do not trust him.
Chronologically, Black Ops Cold War is up next. There's a few things that happen between games that you need to know first. It turns out that Woods and Kravchenko actually survived the explosion back in Vietnam.
Yeah.
After a brief stint as a POW, Woods returned to work for the CIA in 1972. Then in 1978, the CIA launches Operation Charybdis. Labeled Mason, Hudson, and Weaver all as threats to the US national security after knowledge of Mason's brainwashing became known. This has only ever been referenced in the PS Vita game Black Ops Declassified.
PS
and
Vita?
it's assumed that the operation was rescinded at some point because Hudson continued to keep his job with the CIA by the time that the Cold War starts back up. And lastly, in 1979, Alex Mason has a son named David, who's very important later, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And with that out of the way, we'll jump back into the story another 10 years later in 1981, where Russell Adler enters the fray alongside Mason and Woods, targeting a man named Arash Kadir. Now at this point, they're pretty good at this covert operation stuff, so they...
Boom.
We missed him. Hurry, Vortex.
Yeah, that was a cool one. This is a good intro to that game.
You won't be able to stop him this time. Stop who? Perseus. Who the fuck is Perseus?
Well, Perseus is a faceless entity supposedly running things in the shadows since the end of World War II. He hasn't been heard from in years, but Arash suggests that he plans on attacking the West after over a decade of relative peace. This triggers a wave of paranoia throughout the military, and President Reagan greenlights a mission to kill Perseus by any means necessary. Under that order, Adler assembles a team based out of London made up of Lawrence Sims, Helen Park, and Lazir Azula, with Mason and Woods returning for support when needed. The last member of the unit is the playable character, a silent protagonist known only as Bell. You can select your own backstory for the character, and it doesn't come back up at any point, so it's just not worth going into now. All you need to know is that he served alongside Adler and Sims back in Vietnam and helped secure a nuclear warhead from falling into the wrong hands. The team hops around Europe following leads, first capturing a Russian mafia boss named Anton Volkov with known ties to Perseus, which gets them intel leading to a Spetsnaz training facility. There, they discover that Perseus had infiltrated Operation Greenlight, a top secret American program that secretly planted neutron bombs in every major European city as a self-destruct option if the Soviets were to ever take control. With the clock ticking, Adler and Bell infiltrate the KGB headquarters to find out where the Russians have sleeper agents ready to pull the trigger, and thankfully, they're able to find it before being chased out. Next, they head to Cuba to confront Perseus and attempt to raid his hideout. Unfortunately, Perseus escapes, but while there, the crew now learn that Perseus has managed to steal the detonation codes for every Operation Greenlight bomb, meaning he now has the means to devastate Europe and lay the blame on the United States. Before they figure out what to do next, they're attacked by Perseus's men, and depending on the player's actions, either Lazar or Park is killed in action. The surviving members of the team return to the safe house, where they enact their last resort. Adler begins drugging Bell with psychedelic drugs and asking him to remember their time in Vietnam over and over again.
This was
It's
such a
through
crazy
this sequence
mission.
that the audience learns that Bell was never actually in Vietnam, and in fact, he's not even named Bell. He's actually the lone survivor of the game's very first mission, who Arash tried to kill as a method of cleaning up loose ends. After rescuing him, Adler brainwashed the man formerly known as Bell with the Vietnam story to get him to flip on his country. Now, with the programming broken and being the only one who knows where Perseus is, the player gets to decide either to tell Adler the truth or lie and walk him into a trap. Now, technically, you can choose either option. But considering the lie option leads to every single character dying, and we're only halfway through the story, I'm willing to bet the truth option is the canon one. Bell leads Adler and the team to Perseus's headquarters, and they destroy the transmitters that would have been used to send the detonation signal. Unfortunately, Perseus escapes and goes into hiding, with Adler swearing to continue hunting him.
This is a message to Perseus and those that'll follow him. We don't just sit back and hope for the best. We'll make the best happen.
Later, Adler takes the player out for a walk, where he admits that Bell must be eliminated as a loose end.
It was never personal.
Bell is presumed KIA. 2 years later, as told by the game's post-launch, a new Perseus cell begins popping up, raiding a CIA safe house to gain intel.
I'm pretty sure with
Adler.
that, Adler won that. Bell died for the I think that's what it was.
This introduces us to Stitch, who was in charge of the Nova 6 production back on Rebirth Island and is tortured by Adler after the raid back in 1968. Now he vows revenge and lures Adler to a mall in New Jersey to capture and start running experiments on his mind. Meanwhile, other Perseus agents travel all over the globe, setting things in motion and hijacking satellites to crash from orbit. Woods is called in to rescue Adler, who's been being held by Stitch at his HQ in Verdansk, who immediately jumps back into the fight. Adler's then sent to investigate one of the crashed satellites in Algeria, where he secretly steals the vessel's data recorder, showing that he's seemingly under the influences of Stitch's programming. Hudson begins to grow suspicious over Adler, though, and he and Mason interrogate him to remove the brainwashing. But back in Verdansk, as Stitch is gearing up to enact his plan of waking up the sleeper agents, he finds out that Adler planted explosives all around Verdansk. Before he has the chance to react, the entire city is leveled. About 2 weeks later, Adler confronts Stitch on the outskirts of a destroyed Verdansk and once again asks where Perseus is.
Oh, spare me your horse shit. Where the fuck is Perseus? Right here. Cancer took him in '83. A great man with great vision. He was not the first Perseus, just as I will not be the last. Look at where we are. This was the Eastern Front. The blood of millions of my people so deep into this soil. I should kill you for what you've done, for what you did to me. My life no longer matters. Do what you will. Finish what you started on Rebirth Island.
Your life will be consumed by absolute loss. Then and only then will you understand what you have done to me.
Now we have another slight time skip as we move into Black Ops 2. This time, between games, Woods is sent to investigate a weapons smuggling ring in South Africa, but he's captured and tortured by a man named Raul Menendez, who we'll see a lot more of in the coming game. Also in this time, Mason's wife dies of unknown causes, resulting in him retiring to raise his son in Alaska. Now we're in 1986, where Hudson delivers the news of Woods' capture to Mason at his home. He tells him that the CIA won't authorize a rescue mission, but he and Mason could go in under the radar to help him. Mason reluctantly goes back to help, leaving his son behind.
You said you'd never go back to the army. You promised me.
It's Uncle Woods, son. He'd do it for me.
Hudson and Mason are successful in rescuing Woods in Angola, who's the lone survivor of his unit. During the raid, Mason comes across Menendez, but is only able to shoot him in the eye before being overpowered and needing to escape. After a few months of recovery, Woods wants revenge on Menendez, and that leads him and Mason to Afghanistan to help the military in a fight with the Soviets in exchange for intel on him. During the fight, they stumble into Lev Kravchenko and capture him for interrogation. The numbers start to come back though, as Mason tries to suppress the urge to kill him. Either the player fails to suppress the urge and Mason murders the final man of Reznov's old hit list, or Woods does it instead after learning that Menendez has a mole inside the CIA. With this intel, that's enough for the CIA to greenlight a mission to capture Menendez at his home in Nicaragua. So the Black Ops crew set out to do just that. However, during the chaos, Woods becomes enraged at Menendez and attempts to kill him with a grenade. The blast inadvertently also kills Josefina, Menendez's sister, along with him. They're both declared dead by the CIA, although Woods and Mason continue to have their doubts. And it turns out they were right, because Menendez survived the explosion and he begins conspiring with Noriega in the shadows. Fast forward to 1989, during the American invasion of Panama, where Mason and Woods are deployed to track down an unknown VIP named only Nexus Target. Mason and Woods are separated, but Hudson comes over the comms telling Woods that they've captured the VIP and reveals him to be Menendez.
Hudson, who is Nexus Target? Hudson!
It's him, Woods. Nexus target is Raul Menendez.
Woods doesn't give visual confirmation of this, but this combination of his own anger towards the man and Hudson telling him to take the shot leads him to pulling the trigger. But it wasn't Menendez.
Of course
What
not.
are you looking so smug about?
The fuck is going on? No. Mason!
Menendez!
Woods is brought to an undisclosed location where Hudson is tied up and David Mason sits in the corner, and Menendez tells them that one of them in this room must die as a payback for his sister Josefina.
Okay, me! Do it! Do it!
Hudson then sacrifices himself and he's brutally murdered in front of them, leaving Woods once again as the last standing member of his unit. And now we skip forward another 30 years to the year 2020.
So that's where Black Ops 6 is going to occur, though, right after those events. So Woods is still alive. Mason's dead. I don't know what happened to his son, though.
5. In the time in between, Woods helps raise David out of respect for his fallen friend.
There you go.
David even enlists in the military, getting the nickname Section. Meanwhile, Menendez continues to operate in the shadows, forming a faction named Cortes Dia and adopting the name Odysseus, fanning the flames of a budding second Cold War between the US and China. With Cortes Dia rapidly growing in followers, David Mason is placed in charge of a team tasked with shutting it down. After raiding a Cortes Dia compound in Myanmar, David's team learns that Menendez is planning a cyber attack utilizing a new rare earth element known as Celerium, and refers to Karma, an expert hacker who they deploy a team to rescue from being kidnapped by Menendez's forces. Now this is where the timeline gets a bit messy, because Black Ops 2 you can make decisions that would impact the rest of the game. For example, if you fail to rescue Karma in the previous mission, you aren't met with a failed screen. The story just continues with Karma in Menendez's grasp. It's not 100% clear on what the canon events are through the rest of the game, so we'll do our best to cover each different path as we go. Later that month, we meet Farid, an undercover operative fighting alongside the Yemen rebels in an attempt to gain the trust of Raul Menendez. During the mission, Farid has to either prove his worth by killing Harper, a team member and a personal friend of David's, or Farid can try killing Menendez instead and end up being killed himself.
You betrayed us, Farid.
After this ordeal, Menendez turns himself into the US military and is taken to the US Barack Obama, captained by Admiral Briggs, for interrogation. However, this turns out to be a ploy and is revealed that Salazar, another one of David's closest allies, has been secretly working with Menendez and helps him escape, uploading a virus to the aircraft carrier's network, taking control of the US's drone fleet. This whole section is another one where the player's choices come in. And honestly, there's too many different outcomes to cover them all, and frankly, they don't really matter too much in the end. If Karma is on the ship, she could be killed, or if Farid is still alive, he may take the bullet for her. Alternatively, if Harper is alive, he will kill Salazar once his double cross is revealed, and even the ship itself can either sink or remain intact by the end of the mission. All that you really need to know is that David and Menendez will always escape unharmed. Now that Menendez has control over the US's drone, he orders them to attack major cities across the US and China, with each superpower blaming the other. The CIA quickly tracks the source of the signal, controlling the drones to Haiti, and David is deployed with the rest of the military to lay siege on the facility. While inside, Menendez stops the drone attack by making them self-destruct and encourages all other nations to attack the US, while their weapons are disabled. David rushes to find Menendez in the building and discovers he's posing as a member of their own military trying to slip through the checkpoint. David finds him at the last second and stabs him, pinning him down, leading to the biggest choice in the entire series: kill or spare Menendez. If the player kills him, Menendez becomes a martyr for the cause. A video is triggered to go online after his death, mobilizing his forces to eventually take over the White House. On the other end, if David spares Menendez, he's taken to prison, and from there, he either stays forever or escapes to visit and kill Old Man Woods in his retirement home before ending his own life too. As for David Mason, there's a few different endings that he can have. If Woods survives, the last we see of them are at his father's grave. But if the player chose way back in the flashback missions to not shoot Mason in the head, but instead opts for a body or leg shot, then the final cutscene in the game will be Alex Mason returning after 30 years off the grid and being reunited with Woods and his son.
Mason, they shot you.
Turns out you're a lousy shot.
My ass. Where the fuck you been for 30 years?
And that's it. The entire timeline of the Black Ops universe up to about the present day. There's more to the story through the Black Ops 3 campaign, and even intel found in Black Ops 4 that continues well into the 2060s, but the story of Mason, Woods, Hudson, Adler, and now the rest of the Black Ops crew we know and love has come to a close. At least, until Black Ops 6.
Which we now know is in 91. I think, I don't know if I ever played this one with all the different options. The future ones. I know I played the multiplayers, but I don't know if I ever played the campaigns back then. The rest of it was pretty blurry in terms of Black Ops 1 and 2. Definitely good re-trigger of the memory for quite a bit of it. I saw some of you guys saying the same off of it as well.
Would.
And I don't know the zombie story at all. I think that would probably be like a 5-hour-long video if we did that one. I don't think I'm going to watch that, but I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, this is T-Dog Smitty. If you guys haven't checked him out, definitely subscribe. I'm on one of my other channels, a sub on this one,
the rest of the...
but he makes some really good stuff. He said we could watch his videos as well. This one was from a while ago, so a lot of people have seen it.
Black Ops crew we know and love has come to a close. At least, until Black Ops 6. Thanks for watching. If you're excited for Black Ops 6, let me know in the comments down below. We appreciate the support. Leave a like, subscribe.
It was a great video.
We'll see you in the next one.
That was a really good video, dude. That was a really good one.